Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us on Lions Down Live.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Sarah, I know you've been a Christian since you were 9, so for the last 19 years. And in this conversation, I want to ask you about what God has taught you during that period. And so to start off with, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you faced in that time?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest things was probably during my last year of school, when I became quite unwell with the flu, and that lasted for months and months, and led to post-viral fatigue, which continued into my university life as well. And that led to me going into quite a serious depression, again lasting throughout most of my university. And yeah, I just found it really difficult in terms of kind of knowing who I was. I felt like before I was always very sporty and active, and kind of thought of myself as a bubbly person. And now it kind of, then I was asking the question, well, who am I now? Kind of at the point of, yeah, really some days were just really hard, didn't have the energy to even get out of bed some days. So yeah, it's very difficult, and spiritually very difficult as well. Kind of feeling perhaps ashamed as a Christian, kind of how could I feel like this, confused about things, and kind of struggling to read the Bible, struggling to get along to church. So it was a very dark time in my life.
Okay. And were there any rays of light, even in those times of real darkness?
Yeah, so I guess even in those darkest moments when I didn't want to do anything or see anyone, when I couldn't even see the point of life itself, I knew that God was still my father, and that I'm his child. And that was something that was just an amazing hope to hold on to. It wasn't that it necessarily kind of made me feel emotionally happy and suddenly full of energy, but knowing that as an objective truth gave me that kind of joy that I was able to really cling on to. And also I was part of a faithful church at university, and that meant that I was hearing the gospel. So every time I went, I was reminded that my hope was in Jesus, and that's what life was about. That's what life is about. It's not about me and my little bubble and, oh, poor Sarah, how can we make life better for her, or anything around me, but it's about Jesus and sharing him. I also had a good friend from church who was faithful in sticking with me. She didn't let me make excuses or kind of hide away from reality. She kept pointing me to Jesus and to the gospel, and that was so precious. And one week she even phoned me and said, "Get dressed, I'm coming to your door. We're going to church together." So yeah, there were rays of light even in the darkness.
Okay. And I know that that friend encouraged you to go to the GP, and that with a combination of medication and exercise and being with your family, you did gradually begin to come out of those depths. As you look back now on that period, what are your reflections?
Yeah, so I definitely wouldn't choose to go through it again, and it wasn't a quick fix. But looking back, I'm so thankful that I did go through that, and it was a huge time of growth, and God taught me so many things in that time.
What kind of things did he teach you?
So one thing that he really taught me was that there's no real identity or hope or joy apart from him, and we often talk about putting our trust in God in that moment when we become a Christian. But actually, we have to keep putting our trust in God every single day. And yeah, that time of darkness just really woke me up to the fact that Jesus and his death on the cross is the only thing that is completely certain, completely that I can trust in. I can't trust my circumstances or my feelings and emotions, only Jesus. He never changes, the gospel never changes. And he is there even in those deep, dark times, in those valleys, as well as on the mountaintops.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And I'm going to hand back now to Ray.